My name is Marshall Carroll, and this is the first part in a series of audio programs which will discuss the reasons for our failing economy, how we will soon fall into a new Great Depression, and how we can solve this coming crisis. But there are no simple answers. If you are willing to spend the time and listen, I will show you why our economy is failing and how we can repair the damage within the next 7 years. We are facing one of the greatest crises to ever face our nation, and we need immediate and drastic action today. I will show you how we have the power to create a new nation, one with the best educational system in the world, dramatically lower crime, energy independence, private health care for all Americans, and most importantly, an economy twice as large as we have today. It is time to bring back the dream, which was called the United States of America. You are the only person who has the power to decide our future by choosing our next president. To quote the Declaration of Independence, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. It is now time for you to stand up, make your voice heard, and set the direction of our nation by electing a leader who will bring about real change. We have become a country which is full of corruption, bankrupt, and is controlled by the elite, special interest groups, foreign and domestic corporations, and foreign governments. 95% of Americans feel they are powerless to do anything about the current situation, while the other 5% pull the strings. As long as we continue to vote for Democratic candidate A or Republican candidate B, this massive corruption is going to continue, and 95% of Americans are going to suffer. It is time that you and the other 95% of Americans stand up for our rights and take our country back today. You are the only one with the power to control our future. If you fail to vote, you will become just as responsible as those who created the crisis. It is your responsibility on this November the 4th to set the direction of our nation. Let's first have a general discussion of why our economy is failing, why we need immediate and drastic action, an overview of the necessary changes, and how the new America will look. We will enter a new Great Depression within the next 3 to 12 months. There is nothing which can stop it from occurring. It is too late. We have waited too long to deal with the true problems. The federal government is $70+ trillion in debt, and it is still growing rapidly. This debt is made up of $12 trillion in national debt and a $58 trillion debt due to the Social Security, Medicare, and new drug prescription plan. We also have $10 to $20 trillion in private sector debt, but no one really knows the total figure because many of these records are private. If the debt was our only problem, then there is a small chance we would not fall into a depression. But the true problem is our failing economy. We have actually been in recession for over a decade. Every expert and government official will tell you that this is not true. They will tell you that our economy has been growing, and this alone proves we have not been in a recession. But this is the farthest thing from the truth. These same people are the ones who have caused our economic crisis, and now they claim they did not see it coming. The truth is, we have been borrowing large sums of money and pumping into our economy for more than a decade. It has only made it appear that we had a growing and healthy economy. Today, we supposedly have a $14 trillion economy, but in reality, our economy is closer to $9 trillion. If you add up the government, personal, and business overspending, we have been pumping in roughly $5 trillion per year over the last few years as our economy has slid further and further. This hidden recession probably started around 1995 to 1996. Every year since then, it has grown larger and larger, and we have been forced to borrow larger and larger sums of money every year to prop up our declining economy. Think back to 1999 and 2000 when we had the dot-com bust, and basically 50% of the equity in the mutual funds, 401ks, and private retirement accounts were wiped out. From 1995 to 1999, the banks, insurance companies, investors, and private individuals drained trillions of dollars out of these accounts during the wild dot-com speculation years. This money was being pulled out and pumped into our economy. Once the bust occurred, the hidden recession started to show its ugly head. Rather than deal with the true problems, the politicians demanded immediate action to pump money into the economy. The government started massive overspending, the feds lowered the federal funds interest rate to 1%, cut taxes, and took off many of the restrictions on financial institutions which were put in place because of the 1929 Great Depression. This created the housing boom and financial crisis we have today. By allowing tens of trillions of dollars to be borrowed over the last 8 years and pumped into our failing economy, we have hidden recession which has grown from mild to severe. Now that businesses and individual Americans can no longer borrow large sums of money, we are on the verge of entering a new Great Depression. But look at what the politicians are doing. Since Americans can no longer borrow these large sums of money, they are compensating by borrowing over $2.5 trillion this year alone and injecting into our economy so they can delay the coming depression. Most politicians are fully aware how severe the situation has become and are only concerned with preventing the crash before the November the 4th election. If the crash were to occur any sooner, many of them fear being kicked out of office, and this is why they are so desperate to throw money as quickly as possible at the problem. The politicians are not concerned with what's in the best interest of our nation. They are only concerned with holding onto their power and lining their pocketbooks. But why is our economy failing? The simple answer is, American companies can no longer compete domestically or internationally. To use China as an example, Chinese manufacturers can produce products which are 1/3, 1/4, or even lower in cost when compared to the same products manufactured in the United States. Lower wages are not the significant factor you always hear about. Even if Chinese workers were paid twice as much as American workers, they could still produce the same products for half the cost or less. The Chinese are able to produce products at a much lower cost because they use cheap polluting energy, dump toxins into the environment, abuse workers, steal technology, violate patents, steal software, create defective, unsafe, or deadly products which they are not liable for, and the list goes on and on and on. American manufacturers are required by law to follow these rules, while foreign manufacturers do not have to. As long as we allow this unfair trade to continue, large number of jobs will continue to leave the United States every day. The problem is only accelerating, and we are at the tipping point. The politicians would have you believe our economic problems are due to the housing and credit crisis, but the opposite is true. Our housing and credit crisis is due to our failing economy, and this is because Americans are borrowing trillions of dollars to maintain their same standard of living as our economy falls further and further. Our true economy has shrunk from $14 trillion to $9 trillion a year as the hidden recession has worsened.